told Governor Murphy once, every time I hear the President of the United States, look around and say, where the hell is he? He's coming.
This is my first video update from Nicosia, Cyprus on this Sunday morning. Let's talk about some news, and let's talk about the story that I discussed yesterday in my Cloud World segment. It has to do with the Estonian Prime Minister and some comments she made on the sidelines of the EU Leaders Summit a couple of days ago. And she made two statements. One statement was that Estonia, if they had fighter jets, they would give them all over to Ukraine. But they don't have fighter jets. But if they did, then they would give them over to Ukraine. And she's urging all EU member states to give over their weapons to Ukraine if they democratically choose to do so. That was pretty much what she said in the first part of her statement. I'm paraphrasing it a bit. But the other reports that were floating around the internet were that the Estonian Prime Minister then also said on the sidelines to reporters of during the EU Leaders Summit was that Estonia would announce handing over 10 F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine, but they don't really have those fighter jets as of yet. But they would hand over those 10 fighter jets if they had them. And she said it was a gesture, allegedly, she said this would be a gesture of goodwill, kind of, the thought that counts kind of thing. And once again, I'm paraphrasing. So you had two statements. The first statement was that Estonia would give all their weapons to Ukraine if they had weapons. And the second statement was that Estonia is ready to give 10 fighter jets, but they don't have those fighter jets just yet. So I did some digging on Saturday evening with regards to this story, like some heavy-duty digging, because that's what I do on a Saturday night. And what I could find out is that the first part of her statement, I'll say, is 99.9% accurate. I don't say 100% because when EU leaders give these statements on the sidelines of meetings, when any leader gives statements to reporters on the sidelines of meetings, it's hard to sometimes track down what they said and to get accurate quotes. But I think the first part of her statement is accurate. Estonia will give, if Estonia had weapons, we'd give them all over to Ukraine. The second part of her statement, I think, is not accurate. I think that was added in as parody to mock the Estonian Prime Minister. I'm not 100% on that. I would say 80 to 90% positive that the statement about the 10 fighter jets was added in as parody. But I'll leave like a 10% just in case she actually did say that, and someone does dig up a quote where she said that, because in today's world, leaders are saying all kinds of nutty stuff. So who knows? But I thought I would clarify the statements from the clown world yesterday. Now, talking about crazy statements, as I was ready to crash yesterday evening, I saw in my Twitter feed a post which said that Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, called up Biden to shoot down an unidentified object over Canada. He called Biden to get the U.S. military to shoot it down. And this, I thought, was a joke. This, I said, okay, this is without a doubt, someone is trolling. This is parody, no doubt about it. And so I kind of laughed. I laughed it off, and I went to sleep. I woke up this morning, and sure enough, this is not a joke. This is real. And let me just read you what the Associated Press, so this is coming from the Associated Press, this is what they are reporting with another object over North America. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Saturday that on his order, a U.S. fighter jet shot down an unidentified object that was flying high over the Yukon, acting a day after the U.S. took similar action over Alaska. North American Aerospace Defense Command, the combined U.S.-Canada organization that provides shared defense of airspace over the two nations, detected the object flying at a high altitude Friday evening over Alaska. U.S. officials said it crossed into Canadian airspace on Saturday. Trudeau spoke with President Joe Biden, who also ordered the object to be shot down. Canadian and U.S. jets operating as part of NORAD were scrambled, and it was a U.S. jet that shot down the object. F-22 fighter jets have now taken out 3 objects in the airspace above the U.S. and Canada over 7 days, a stunning development that is raising questions on just what exactly is hovering overhead and who has sent them. Trudeau described the object as unidentified. A NORAD spokesman, Major Olivier Gallant, said the military had determined what it was but would not reveal details. Anyway, you guys can search for this story. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is a distraction. No doubt about it. This is a distraction. They're distracting everybody from other stuff. Maybe that stuff is the collapse in Ukraine. Maybe it's the economy. Maybe it's something else that they're cooking up, but this is a distraction. They are trying to take everyone's attention off of something or a lot of things and trying to get them to focus on these objects. Or maybe they're just trying to stir up some fear so that they can start a new conflict with China or something like that. Who knows? But this is absolutely incredible. So Justin Trudeau called up Biden, and he asked the U.S. president to shoot down another object. Yeah, this is Joe Biden. Joe, this is Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada. Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, our friendly neighbor to the south. How can I help you? Joe, listen. We got an object over Canada that we need you to shoot down. An object? Is it an object? Or is it a balloon? I think it's an object. Maybe it's a balloon. I don't know, Joe. Justin, you idiot. Now, listen up. Listen to what I'm going to tell you, Justin. If it's a balloon, a Chinese balloon, I can't shoot it down. If it's a Ukrainian object, I can't shoot it down. 10% for the big guy. You know what I mean, Justin. Now, if it's Russian, I can shoot it down. Because, Justin, I'm winning the war. I'm beating Putin. You know that I'm beating Putin. So if it's Russian, I'll shoot it down. Joe, I think it's Chinese. Chinese? Justin, I can't shoot down a Chinese balloon. You dog-faced pony soldier. I just can't do that. Justin, I have to ask you a question. Sure, Joe. What is it? You don't want to be like Xi Jinping, do you? Tell me now. You don't want to be like Xi Jinping. Tell me, Justin. You don't want to be like Xi Jinping. No, Joe, well, maybe a little bit. Maybe, just a little bit. Trudeau, I appreciate the honesty. I'll tell you what. I'll shoot down that balloon. I'll shoot it down. But I'm just gonna shoot it down. Just this one time. One time. And only one time. Okay, Trudeau? Oh, okay. Okay, Biden. Thanks? You got it. Anytime, Justin. I'm Joe Biden, and I'm President of the United States of America. Take care. I don't know if that's a good Biden impersonation, but who knows? Let me know in the comments down below. I'm positive that's how the conversation went. All right, so enough joking around. Look, the balloon story over Canada is real. The impersonation is some Sunday humor, but the balloon story is 100%. 100%. 3 balloons in like 1 week, or 3 objects, 1 balloon and 2 UFOs in 1 week. So let's shift gears now, and let's talk about Serbia and Hungary. And I'm putting these 2 countries together because I think something is going on here. So we have reports from Serbia. Let's start with Serbia. From Serbian President Vučić and the Prime Minister Ana Brnabić. I believe I'm pronouncing her last name correctly. And they came out with statements saying that sooner or later, Serbia is going to have to fall in line with the European Union and to place sanctions and restrictions on Russia. Ana Brnabić, she said that the one thing that is delaying Serbia's integration into the European Union, acceptance into the European Union, is the fact that Serbia is not imposing sanctions and falling in line with the EU. Now, why Serbia is in such a rush to join the EU, I don't know. But maybe Ana Brnabić is once again just trying to buy time, and she's saying, you know, we're trying to get into the EU. Believe me, Ursula. Believe me, Michelle. We really do want to get into the EU. We understand that sanctions against Russia are holding us back, so we'll see about perhaps doing something there. So maybe she's just trying to buy time. I don't know. But Vučić, he also came out with a statement pretty much on the same day. And he said that Serbia will have to impose sanctions against Russia due to strong pressure from the West. He said the moment when Belgrade will be forced to do this will come soon. That is what he said. Let me get another quote from him. He said, "Let me stall for as long as possible. I will know when the moment is right, and I will not hide anything from the people. This moment has been approaching for a long time. I'm afraid that with regard to this issue, we are not talking about months." So obviously Serbia is getting a whole lot of pressure from the EU to impose sanctions and restrictions on Russia. Serbia is surrounded by the European Union. They are surrounded by NATO. Obviously, their economy is very dependent on the countries that surround them. So this is a problem for Serbia and their security. They're in the middle of aggressive and belligerent NATO member states, a NATO that has already waged war against them once before. And so they're in a very difficult position. But Serbia is also the strongest ally of Russia, I would say, or one of the strongest allies of Russia. The public sentiment, if I'm not mistaken, I've been to Belgrade many times, and I believe that the Serbian public, they are absolutely supportive of Russia and of Russian President Vladimir Putin. So this is a tough situation for the government, but also from an economic level, Serbia is very dependent on Russian energy. So, and also Russian military as well, Russian military trade, from what I understand. So Serbia does have significant economic ties with Russia. You also have a lot of Russian businesses in Serbia as well, and there's a lot of travel and interaction between the two countries. This is a very tough situation that Serbia is in, that the EU, that the collective West have kind of put them in, to be more honest, because if the collective West really did respect democracy and sovereignty of countries, they would not be forcing Serbia to do this, because Serbia is a sovereign nation and should be allowed to do as it wishes, and it is not part of the European Union, and so it shouldn't be forced to take sides. But we know that the European Union does not care about sovereignty of nations. What they want is obedience, even if it means obedience from countries that are not yet in the European Union. The EU always demands 100% compliance, not 90%, not 99%. They demand 100% compliance. That is the nature of this cult. That is the nature of this ideology. So Serbia is in a tough spot. Hungary now, well, Hungary, they have been fighting the EU on all of this Russian sanctions, Russian-Ukraine war stuff since the very beginning. And they've been fighting the EU even before this conflict broke out, because the EU has been trying to orchestrate the downfall of the Orban government. They absolutely despise the government of Orban, because Orban's policy is that of a sovereign Hungary. And the EU, as I said, they do not allow this type of thought. 100% compliance is what they demand from their member states. And Orban doesn't play that game. And so they've been trying to engineer Orban's downfall for a long, long time, going way before the conflict in Ukraine. But this has now been amplified because of the conflict in Ukraine and because of the sanctions, and because Hungary is very dependent on Russian oil and gas. And so all of the sanctions imposed on Russia have been very, very detrimental to the Hungarian economy, even though Hungary has stated many times on the record that they oppose the sanctions. The sanctions are not working, and all the sanctions do are hurt the EU economy. Just to give you an example, here is an interesting number. Headline inflation in Hungary accelerated to an annual 25.7% in January compared to 24.5% the previous month, according to the latest data released by the Central Statistics Office. The surge is attributed to intense price pressure in an economy where the labor market remains tight. The KSH clarified that the prices for energy, food, and fuel saw the month growth over the past year, and that prices saw the most growth over the past year, and that prices in January increased by 2.3% month on month. Hungarian inflation is currently ranked the highest in Central Europe. The country's central bank is keeping interest rates at the highest in the EU to support the national currency. The forint has strengthened substantially, boosted in part by a weaker dollar and tight monetary policy. So inflation is very high in Hungary. And in Hungary right now, you have Samantha Power, who is, I believe she is now the chief of USAID. And USAID is one of these US globalist NGOs or it masquerades as an NGO And Samantha Power, she used to be the ambassador to the UN under the Obama administration. And she was one of the leading war hawks to launch conflicts in Syria, and I also believe in Libya as well. She is the person that coined the phrase, I believe she's the one responsible for the phrase humanitarian intervention. That's her philosophy, that's her idea. Destroy a country for humanitarian purposes. And so she's, Samantha Power is, let's say, what John McCain was, or what Lindsey Graham is to the neocons, Samantha Power is to the neoliberals. So when she ends up in your country, then 99% your country is being singled out for some sort of regime change. But she put out a video from Budapest, and she is talking about how she's in Hungary to promote democracy and values and human rights and stuff like that.
As U.S. Aid Administrator, I have the chance to travel all around the world to engage with people who are working every day to strengthen democratic institutions, to build independent media, and to promote and protect human rights. I'm here in Hungary, one of the countries in Central Europe where U.S. Aid has recently relaunched programming to tackle just these challenges. I'm going to spend the next couple days engaging with Hungarians about their vision for a brighter future.
Not a good sign for Hungary. And why am I bringing all of this up? Well, for Hungary, here's what I think is going on. I think one of the added benefits of the boomerang sanctions to Europe, because remember, the elite class, they don't really care if inflation is 20% or 25%. They don't care if people have heat or don't have heat, as long as they don't go out on the streets and protest like what's happening in France right now, or I believe what happened in Italy as well. There were protests against NATO. I believe Italy yesterday had big protests, but France is having huge protests right now against Macron's pension reform. Massive protests. A lot of the images are not being reported by the collective West mainstream media. They don't want to report on the huge protests and the anger that the French have now towards Macron. But the globalist elite, they have a type of thinking that as long as our power is not in jeopardy and as long as people don't revolt, then we don't care if inflation is 20, 25, if energy is $100 a month, $100 a month, 200, 300, 500. For them, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter as long as they get the geopolitical outcomes that they're aiming for, which will, in essence, enrichen their donors, their overlords, and themselves as well, and keep them in power. That's pretty much their thinking. And so one of the added benefits of the 9, now going on 10 sanctions towards Russia, is that it has hurt. It has affected the Hungarian economy, which has been, under Orban, a very strong, prosperous, and robust economy. But now it's starting to take hits because of the sanctions that the EU placed on Russia. The EU did this. This was their choice to do this. And so I think that the European Union, I think that the globalist elite, I think that the US deep state, people like Samantha Power, the neo-libs, the neocons, I think they sense an opportunity now in Hungary. They see that as the economy weakens, this may be an opportunity to get some protests going and to get some regime change on the table so that they can get Orban out of office, something that they have been trying to do for so many years. And during the last elections, Orban, he won in a landslide. And this really, really pissed off the EU because they tried really hard to engineer an election defeat during the last elections in Hungary. So this is what they're trying to do. This is one of the interesting benefits for them that has come up because of the sanctions against Russia. It's meant that perhaps they see an opening in Hungary where they can sow some discord and weaken Orban. Serbia is kind of the same thing, but for the collective West, instead of engineering the overthrow, the regime change of the Vučić government, they're just trying to put pressure to get the Vučić government to finally turn away from Russia and get the Vučić government to fall under the control of the European Union and of the collective West. And once they get that control, they're not going to let go. Once they can sink their claws into Serbia, you know they're going to start to really dig in and really take over. And for them, this is important because as Russia moves towards victory in Ukraine, which they know Russia is going to move towards victory in Ukraine, what are the neocons, the neolibs, the EU, what are they seeing? They are saying, you know what, we're losing our world dominance. We're losing our grip on the world. We've definitely lost our control over the collective, over the global South. And what we have to do now is we have to make sure that we secure our dominance in Europe, in the Balkans, in Central Europe, and even in Turkey. That's why you have John Bolton with his regime change group. As Samantha Power is working from the neo-lib side, John Bolton is working Turkey from the neocon side. And so they're saying, you know what, we have to make sure that before Russia wins in Ukraine, which could unlock the potential for Serbia and Hungary if Russia were to push all the way to the borders of Ukraine and Hungary. It could unlock a different potential for Hungary and Serbia with regards to access to the Black Sea via Russia, and all kinds of different possibilities could come up if that is what Russia accomplishes. But the EU and the US, they're taking a look at all the pieces on the board, and they're saying we gotta take Hungary, Serbia, and Turkey as well. We got to make sure that they're 100% under our control. Since we are talking about the EU and NATO, let's shift gears before we get to our clown world and talk about Zelensky and a meeting that he had that was organized by J.P. Morgan, an investment summit organized by J.P. Morgan. And in this summit, Zelensky said that he expects Ukraine to join the EU in 2 years and to join NATO after the end of the war. That is what Zelensky said during this summit. Possible? I don't know. Maybe, but doubtful. But this is what he told all of those investment bankers chomping at the bits to get their hands on Ukraine and Crimea, chomping at the bits to get their hands on these territories. That is what Zelensky assured them. The EU and NATO in a couple of years. Should we do a clown world on Zelensky to finish it off? And you thought my clown world was on Trudeau and the objects over Canada. We have a cover from Der Spiegel of Zelensky, an interview he gave to Der Spiegel. And the cover, one second, as the ambulance passes by over the wall here. And the cover of Der Spiegel, I'll put it up on the screen right now. It reads, quote, "Putin is a dragon who is always hungry." Putin is a dragon who is always hungry. No, Zelensky, the dragon is China. Russia's the bear. China's the dragon. Zelensky, come on, man. Come on, stop ad-libbing. Stop straying off the script. Putin, Russia. Russia is a bear that's always hungry. China is the dragon that's always hungry. That noise is this kind of fountain over here. So that's the clown world. I don't think I have any other stories to get to. Oh, I did want to talk about Baerbock's interview that she gave. This could be a second clown world. I almost forgot this story. So the German foreign minister, she gave an interview to a German publication, and this was all set up, by the way. This was all orchestrated so she could walk back her "we're fighting a war against Russia," and that's why they put together this interview. And she kind of says that she made a mistake, kind of, but not really. She doesn't want to take full responsibility. Anyway, let me read you this and I'll end the video. German Foreign Minister Annalena Baerbock has conceded that her controversial comment about Europe being at war with Russia, which she made last month before the European Council, was a mistake. The diplomat noted, however, that the general message itself, that the continent should unite in its support for Ukraine, still stands. In an interview with Der Tagesspiegel newspaper, which was published on Saturday, Baerbock was asked whether she thought Germany was at war with Russia. She replied in the negative, but added that by attacking Ukraine, Moscow was also attacking our European peace order, clarifying her previous remark in which she said Europe was fighting a war against Russia. The foreign minister claimed that context was key to understanding it correctly. Baerbock recounted how she had to parry accusations that Germany was not doing enough to shore up Ukraine at the time, with critics citing Berlin's refusal to provide Kiev with tanks. That's why I made it clear that we do support Ukraine in its self-defense, the diplomat explained. She added that she was also trying to communicate another point, that Moscow's offensive had targeted the whole security architecture of Europe and not merely its neighbor. According to Baerbock, her words had been deliberately misinterpreted by the Russian regime's propaganda. She concluded by quoting a German saying, "The one who doesn't make mistakes doesn't live." Okay, she kind of admits a mistake, but she doesn't. And she also then blames Russian propaganda as well. So not exactly the admission that she said something stupid, because she can't bring herself to admit that she said something stupid. But she's trying to walk it back because, from what I understand, everyone is very upset with Baerbock because she said the quiet part out loud, right? The whole narrative has been, we're giving all of these weapons to Ukraine. We're trying to destroy Russia, but we're not at war with Russia. We're using Ukraine as a proxy to destroy Russia, but we're not at war with Russia. That's been the narrative from day one from the collective West. And Baerbock, she said the quiet part out loud. She said what she said is what she was hearing others saying in closed door conversations. She's sitting in on all these conversations, and she's hearing Stoltenberg and Blinken and Nuland say, yeah, we're at war with Russia. And so she just kind of blurted that out, when really the narrative is between them inside of the closed rooms. They're saying, yeah, we're at war with Russia. We want to destroy Russia. We want regime change in Russia. But to the public, make sure you say we're not at war with Russia, because if we were to tell the public that we're fighting a proxy war against Russia, well, the collective West public would freak out. And they would perhaps stop supporting this proxy war. Or they would wake up to the fact that we're engaged in a proxy war, and they don't want that. So anyway, I'm going to end the video there. The Duran.locals.com. We are on Rockfin as well. And go to the Duran shop, 10% off. Use the code GOODDAY. Take care.